In this video, I explore an iconic waterfall in my local rainforest to capture a photo for an upcoming book that I'm working on. At the end, I'll run through the final image in Photoshop and explain the editing process. This is a location I've photographed many times over the years, and I feel like I've never really come away with something that does it justice. So after some recent rain, I headed out to try a new composition. Scattered showers continued throughout the day as I explored the surrounding area. It had been a few weeks since heading out with my camera, so it felt great to be back out in nature and inspired again. A few reasons the natural bridge is challenging to capture is the huge dynamic range from inside the waterfall to outside on the cliff face section, which is much brighter. Also, the way the landscape has formed offers limited angles to capture from, which are obstructed by rocks and foliage. I didn't film anything when I captured the photo as it was tricky enough to get to in the first place. I ended up halfway down the rocky embankment which drops off into the pool below. This had the most balanced perspective of the waterfall, the surrounding cliff face, and the overarching trees from above. So here we are in Photoshop, guys. I've got the raw file open. Now this is the finished image with the edits already applied. So I've positioned the waterfall down in the bottom left rule of third here. I've done that to work as a strong anchor point. Now I really like how the white water contrasts against the dark cave. It just creates a really simple frame that leads the viewer's eye in. In the past I've just captured images that are much more tighter. This time I really wanted to show everything and include as much as I could and tell the whole story. So to do that I had my camera on the tripod in vertical orientation and actually captured 4 images which I've stitched together to create this as a panorama. So I hope that gives you guys a bit of an understanding of the compositional aspect of this image. Now I'll just move on and talk about the camera settings that I used to create it. So I'll just toggle between before and after so you can see where it started and where it's at now. So here are the settings that I used just up the top here. So in terms of processing this file, I've kept it pretty basic. Just by raising the global exposure 1.5 stops, adding some contrast, lifting the shadows and adding some saturation and vibrance. Now I shot it quite dark in camera to preserve the details in the highlights. I've used ISO 250, so on my camera that's about the threshold, is about as high as I can go without getting any noise. So you can see in the darks, in the black areas here, there's no noise, and that's obviously pretty important. Moving down, I've added a little bit of texture just to sharpen things up a little bit. I do tend to shoot with a flat profile. It's probably worth mentioning that. In camera, a very flat profile. The curve, I haven't actually touched on this image just because the black areas are so sensitive. I feel like as soon as I touch them, they're gonna start getting quite crushed. I want to keep it as realistic as possible. So moving down to the color mixer panel, this is one that I use quite regularly. In the luminance panel, I've raised the green exposure up just to make the rainforest foliage pop a bit more. So yeah, that's a pretty quick overview of how I created this image and the thought process behind it. So yeah, I hope you guys have learned something and look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.